I want you to close your eyes, but don't go to sleep. I'm watching you. Imagine you're 19 years old. You live in a small house off the side of a road in rural Latin America. You wake up just as the sun rises, you rub your groggy eyes, and you shuffle out the door. It's already hot and humid in the tropical weather. You board a crowded bus. It's hot, it's cramped, people are sitting on you, and you travel 3 hours to get to the capital city to take English classes. Once you spend an entire day in class, you spend another 3 hours to get back home to help your mom, your dad, and your siblings out in the field. Now open your eyes. You just experienced one day in the life of Julio Moreno, one of my brightest students in Panama. And although Julio had to wake up at the crack of dawn every morning, he never stopped dreaming of being something bigger. Now, we actually take for granted the ability to speak English. How many people speak English as a second language here? Wow. I really commend you guys. How are we supposed to tell you that these 3 words, even though they're written differently, are supposed to sound the same? And there's so many idioms. I remember that one of my friends from graduate school, he's from Afghanistan, he said the first time he heard an American say, "I'm feeling very under the weather today," he said, "Everyone's under the weather." Yet, English is the international language of business and travel. Millions of people study it every year, and hundreds of Americans travel abroad to teach it. I was one of those Americans, and Panama was the country to which I traveled. Now, I'm Panamanian American, but I was born and raised in Long Island, New York. When I was little, my family used to tell me about how beautiful Panama was, whether it be the pristine beaches of San Blas, or hiking the rolling hills of Chiriquí, or even dancing salsa to the wee hours of the morning in our hometown of Colón. I really wanted to yearn to serve the country of my heritage, and so I applied for Fulbright, which fosters U.S. relations with other countries. And the Fulbright gave me the chance to teach at the University of Panama. There, one of the students that stuck out to me the most is the guy who's squatting in the middle, Julio Moreno. Now, although Julio had to wake up every morning and do that 6-hour commute to and from Panama City, he never lost his love for learning. He'd come to class every day, and he'd always come in with a new idiom that he learned the day before. I remember one time he said, "Leland, I just saw an American movie last night." I said, "Yeah, sure." He said, "And I learned a new idiom." I said, "What is that?" He said, "Shit hits the fan." I was like, my teaching manual did not tell me how to explain that. But Julio also loved listening to videos of Martin Luther King that I would play in my class. And his favorite quote was, "Even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream." See, Julio's dream was to learn English and to become an English teacher. And that dream was shared by so many of my other students. But the fact of the matter was that dream was very difficult to obtain. The organization Education First did a study in 2011 that showed that out of 44 countries, Panama was 40th in terms of access to a good English education. The US and Panama have a strong economic relationship ever since the Panama Canal was constructed in 1914, and many American companies still exist in Panama. So even though Panama is a Spanish-speaking country, you have to know English in order to get a good job to provide for your family. But unfortunately, disadvantaged Panamanians from humble backgrounds, especially those who are ethnic minorities, don't have the same access to education than their lighter, wealthier counterparts. Now, Panamanians will tell you that this is a class issue or that this is a rural-urban divide. But from my experience and the experiences of many of my students, deep down in the fabric of Panamanian society, it's also a race issue. My grandma, when she grew up in Panama, suffered segregation, where white Panamanians and Panamanians of color were separated based on gold and silver facilities. My grandma couldn't eat at gold restaurants, and she couldn't drink at gold water fountains. A civil rights movement similar to the one that Martin Luther King led here in the States never materialized in Panama. And so the vestiges of that racial discrimination still linger today. It's no coincidence that The poorest communities in Panama, whether it be Monagrillo, San Miguelito, or my family's hometown of Colón, are mostly black. See, I realized that had it not been for the fortitude and the sheer luck that my grandma had to come to the United States, then my family could have been in the same situation that my students, who are mostly from those neighborhoods, I could have been in that same situation. And many of us in this room, whether you're a daughter, son, or grandchild of an immigrant, we all could have been just one boat ride or one plane ride away from poverty. So I wanted to show my students a world outside of their own and give them an opportunity that otherwise wouldn't have had. And so I announced at the University of Panama that I wanted to create a program for disadvantaged Panamanian students to come to the United States and learn English. And I called it the Dream Scholarship to evoke Martin Luther King. Now, starting the Dream Scholarship wasn't easy. I went to the administration at the University of Panama, and they said that I wouldn't be able to get a team together in time to do it. Then I went to the US Embassy of Panama, and they doubted that I would be able to get necessary funds in time. Then I scoured around Panama City to try to find any company, any NGO, any individual who could lend a hand. And they would always look at me the same way. They see how I was young, how I was 22 years old, how I was already sweating through my shirt and tie in Panama's hot weather. And they thought that I was naive. And I started to doubt myself. I started to think, maybe I was naive. Why am I doing this anyway? It's not a requirement of the Fulbright. Why can't I just finish up my studies, finish up my teaching, pack my bags, and go back to Long Island? But then I started to think about Julio, and so many of my students like Julio. And I went with Julio and spent 1 week with him and his family. And I went on that bus with him, that 6-hour commute. And I worked in the fields with him and his family together. And in that instance, his struggle became my struggle. His pain became my pain, and his dream became mine. And I realized that if he can do it, then I have to do it. And so when I came back, I got a team together from the University of Panama, the US Embassy, and the Fulbright Alumni Association of Panama. We got the students involved, and they organized the bake sale, and they organized a talent show, and they put posters around campus. I even got my best friend, who's actually here today, to get a website. Thanks, Tom. And we were able to get more and more sponsors, more and more and more. And before I knew it, the dream took on a life of its own. And we were able to raise enough money to send 5 Panamanians and 1 professor to Murray State University in Kentucky to learn English. And then, when they returned home, they served their local communities where they taught English in local schools, and they helped the US Embassy on a community service project. Julio Moreno was the first Dream Scholars. It changed his life forever, he told me. Not only did he learn English, but he also made lasting friendships with his American and international counterparts. And he has finally reached his dream. He is an English teacher right now. And soon he will reach another dream. Next year, he's going to apply for Fulbright to get his master's degree in linguistics in the United States. The Dream Scholarship is 3 years old now. There are 15 alumni, and each of them is either a teacher, a translator, or a flight attendant. This is a newspaper article in a local Panamanian newspaper, and the title is Un sueño que se hace realidad, a dream that has become a reality. And so my dream and the dreams of my students became a reality because we believe that every single Panamanian, regardless of the color of their skin or their socioeconomic background, should have the same access to education. And that is a dream worth fighting for. And as I start my own career as a U.S. Foreign Service officer, I want to continue that fight and expand the Dream Scholarship to other countries to give that same opportunity to other students. So I want you to close your eyes one more time and imagine the Julios in your lives. What are their dreams? What are the obstacles standing in their way? And how can you help them reach their dreams? We have a moral responsibility to do so, because if each and every one of us can help our own Julios realize their dreams, then this world will be a much better place. Thank you.